G'day everyone, bit of a long time coming, me doing this video. I've been meaning to do something like this for a couple of years now, a bit of a rundown on all my gear, what I use, why I like to use it, when I like to use it. I've been on the sidelines for about a month now. I did my arm at the gym, so I'm not fishing, so I thought I may as well pull out the good camera and have a good run through of some of the gear that I like to use, and we'll go through rods, reels, spin, bait cast, a little bit of the lines and the braid, the leader that I like to use, and I've got a bit of fly stuff as well. Especially the Loomis rods, I feel like there's not much information on Australian YouTube when it comes to some of those Loomis rods. So let's go. Alright, so first outfit, this is a relatively new one for me. I've only had this for about a month. That is the Poison Adrena. Pretty sure it's a 2024 model, and same with the Vanford as well. They're both quite new. 610 Poison Adrena. Feels like a 2 to 5 kilo rod for me. 2500 Vanford, 10 pound Power Pro tenacity. Just a sick looking and sick feeling outfit. So I got this for estuary perch, bass, throwing frogs, that sort of stuff. Pretty whippy in the tip, which would be perfect for throwing 2 to 3 inch plastics and whatnot, small hard bodies and all that sort of stuff. These are one of my favourite rods that I've ever used, especially for the light tackle. And when I say light tackle, I mean this kind of 2 to 5 kilo range. They're just so crispy light at the same time. And not only that, they look awesome. This is a good matchup when it comes to aesthetics. The rod, the reel, orange braid as well. So I'm pretty keen to use this over the next couple of months. For estuary perch, just flicking small plastics. Always love doing that sort of stuff. Right, now these three outfits are actually spares that I bring on my boat if I'm going to, let's just say, take one of my brothers or a mate or my dad out or something like that. I'll give them one of these just in case something gets damaged. These are just 3 jewels. They're the old jewels. They've been out for a few years now. They're pretty cheap, but they're just solid rods for what you pay for. So they're all, I've got 2 of the 3 to 6 kilos. They're about 7 foot, just over. One of them's a 4 to 8 kilo. That's the old model Vanford. That is a current model Ultegra, and they've both just got the old Power Pro on them in the yellow and white, which they don't sell the white anymore. Pretty cheap combos, but they do the job. These have caught meter dewies on them and bigger as well. Like you don't need that premium gear to catch fish at the end of the day. I just prefer it, but these are pretty solid rods in themselves. Some of my rods aren't matched up with reels because I do a lot of swaps. Some things get used at certain times of year and some don't. So I've had this, this is another Poison. I've had this for a couple of years now. I do absolutely love this rod. I've used it so much. It's got so much balls for what it actually is. So it's 6'11". They say it's a 6 to 12 pound, but geez, this thing is stiff and you can really give it to fish on it. There's not that much bend in it for the rod rating, which I actually quite like. There are certain applications of fishing where I use this rod a lot, just because it is so light and so stiff. Poison Adrena is one of my favourite rods of all time, especially in that light tackle stuff. Doesn't get used heaps because I've got the Loomis rods and I do prefer them, but this has definitely got its place in certain applications. This one falls kind of under the same branch as the Poison, the old X-Pride. They're actually really good rods for what you pay. If you don't want to pay top dollar for a Loomis rod, these X-Prides are actually really great. I love the way they look, love the way they feel. It's a little bit softer than some of the Loomis rods in the tip, which is why I don't use it heaps. But I've caught some good fish on this, and yeah, they're a really great rod. I've got a fair few of them. The only thing that I wish is that they had more in the range. Like this is the 7 foot 6 to 12. If they had heavier versions, I'd probably use a bit more of them. That's the only downside I can say, but for what you pay, the X-Prize are just a solid rod, and I would recommend them to anyone who doesn't want to spend $600-700 plus. Next up is the Conquest, basically the Rolls Royce of spinning rods. The next three rods that I show off, rods and reels, are basically my most used combos for the daytime stuff. This thing is just an absolute beast, and it's such a good looking rod. I've probably had it for about 4 years, I think, and it still looks brand new. The cork is immaculate, the wrap's immaculate. This one's 7 foot. All the Loomis rods that I'll show in the next couple of ones are all 7 foot, but this one's rated to 8 to 14 pound. Now for me, I use this with 1/4 ounce jig heads with 3, 4, 5 inch plastics. The reason why I do that is because I feel this rod is a little softer than the NRX Plus, which I'll show next. That's kind of just what I've felt from using it over the last couple of years. Not that you could throw well over half an ounce on this rod. For me, I'll have 3 different outfits on a boat. They'll all have different applications with different size jig heads and plastics, etc, etc. This is just a rod that I prefer to throw a 1/4 ounce with, and I've stopped some pretty big fish on this, so there's absolutely no reason why you couldn't throw heavier. It's kind of just my technique and how I like to approach things. But matched it up with one of the new Sustains, so that's the 2500. The Sustains have only come out in the last couple of months. It's got 15 pound Kairiki on it, and it's just a dream to hold. Like, it's so light, and a lightness of your outfit is probably the most important thing to me, especially because you're flicking lures for 6, 7, 8, even longer hours. For me, it makes a huge difference when you've just got a nice light outfit. So the Conquests, you get what you pay for when it comes to the Conquests. Like, they really are just elite, and they're such a good looking rod. Same with the Sustain, super smooth, super light. Absolutely love this outfit. This one is probably my most used, if not second most used. I find myself using the NRXs more just because of the jig heads I like to use on them, which is basically 3/8. I've had this rod for many, many, many years, and it's caught me many, many, many fish. Some of my biggest fish. You can see it's still in primo condition. The wrap, the cork. I absolutely love the NRXs, and if anyone ever messages me asking about Loomis rods, this is pretty much the one that I direct them to. For what you pay, they're just unbelievable. And like I said before, I feel like this one's a little faster in the tip than the Conquest, so I just prefer using this with a 3/8, and a 4-inch lure, etc, etc. Now this one I've got matched up with one of the Twin Power XDs, so that's the newer version. It's the 3000 size. My favourite reel of all time. Absolutely no debate. If I could have a quiver full of these, I would. I love them. They're so light. I love the EVA handle. It's really grown on me since I started using these, and I've been using Twin Power XDs for about 5 years now. I absolutely love them. They're so silky smooth. They look good. Unbelievably light. This would be up there with my favourite all-time combo, if not the next one is that I'll show. But that's also got the 15 pound tenacity on it as well. Now this is basically a carbon copy combo of what I just showed you. The only difference is this is a heavier version of the NRX Plus, and I got 20 pound line on this. So this is pretty much my favourite rod of all time. I've used it in so many applications, whether it be chasing dewies, big flathead, throwing sluggos and all that sort of stuff. It's just got so much balls, but it's still so light. So I find myself picking this one up first. You can just see it's got that stiffness in the top, whereas the other one starts to bend a bit further down. This one's rated 8 to 15 pound. I think that's kind of about spot on, that 4 to 8, 4 to 9 kilo. The only thing with this that I will change is the braid, and just because when it comes to flicking plastics, I prefer a colour of braid that I can actually see. Multicolour looks great on the reel, but for me it's just not very productive when it comes to looking for that tick in your line. So 3000 Twin Power XD again, like I said, my favourite reel of all time. Nothing will come close to it for me. I just absolutely love them. And this is the first outfit I pick up basically every single time. This is the one. This was my first NRX, or this is my first Loomis rod that I ever got, which is at least 5 or 6 years ago. And as you can see, the cork is still in pretty good condition. Considering how many fish I've caught on this, it's actually ludicrous. But the wrap, perfect condition. My favourite rod and reel and combo of all time. Now this outfit is quite new to me. I actually haven't even used this yet. It's just been spooled up and she's ready to rumble, but I kind of got it at the same time as I hurt myself. So bit of a not an expensive, not a super expensive combo, this one. Definitely not cheap, but for me, I needed a rod with a bit more guts. So this is the T-curve, and then she's 7, 10 to 15 kilos. This is basically for my nighttime fishing, or if I'm fishing the daytime in the river and I know that big fish are about and I want to throw big plastics, this is the one. But I also wanted a rod that I don't have to be as precious with during the nighttime, because things get damaged at the night, stuff happens, and this is a perfect rod for it, because it's still quality, but the price is just very affordable for what you're paying for. And I do like the cork and the blue as well. It's just a nice rod, really. So this one's got a bit of give in it. I would call this a perfect crossfire rod. So basically big surface lures, throwing them for lizards. For me, you want something with the length for the cast distance, and then you need a soft tip, just how I kind of like to work those lures. And yeah, I think this is absolutely perfect for it. That's a 4,000 sustain, so that's the second sustain that I've gotten. That's 30 pound of the Power Pro tenacity. Just a good looking combo, very affordable for what you're paying for. Absolutely recommend it. Last rod in the spin gear, G Loomis IMX Pro Blue. So rated 15 to 50 pound, 7'6". Pretty heavy duty gear, this one. This thing is an absolute beast. Just a dead set pole of a rod. It is super stiff. Pretty much designed for offshore fishing, mostly. Kind of slept on in our country over in Australia, but quite popular over in the States. Good looking rod. Very fast taper, nice cork. Doesn't have much bend in the top here. So I kind of got this just, if I know that big fish are around and I'm throwing big lures, I'm talking ounce plus jig heads, 7-inch plus soft plastics. This is kind of what I'll pick up. I've caught some good fish on this and it really does put the brakes on them. It's a nice solid rod. Don't use it heaps, although definitely one to consider. IMX Pro Blue, G Loomis. Alright, now we move into some of the bait cast gear. We'll start off with the lighter stuff. This is also basically a brand new combo. So I wanted something that I could just throw those chatters and slow roll and all that sort of stuff. So this is one of those Poison Adrenas. Absolutely love these rods. Like I said before, this thing is so crisp, so light. 7 to 21 grams, 8 to 16 pound, 6'6". It's got enough give in it to throw those chatters and small hard bodies and all that sort of stuff, but you can really give it to fish on this. And I've matched it up with one of the Bantams. Now they're not necessarily a new reel to the lineup, but they've been around for years. They're absolutely amazing. This is a slower gear ratio, so it's a 6:2, and that basically just means that per crank you're getting less retrieve, which I like when it comes to rolling lures, especially when it comes to a chatterbait, rolling over logs and branches and all that sort of stuff. So that's why I opted for the lower gear ratio, just because of that slow rolling, which is basically what I'll be doing on this. Same with frogging as well. I've done a bit of frogging on this and it just works perfectly. So Poison Adrena, Bantam, 15 pound tenacity. Once again, just looks sick, feels amazing. Right, next rod, she doesn't have a reel at the moment, and it's just because, like I said before, a lot of my rods are seasonal. Some of them I do use all time. Some of them I'll only use when it comes to lizards. Some of them I'll use when it comes to dew. This is one of my lizard rods. I basically bought it to throw sluggos and just when it comes to slowly bouncing, maybe vibes and all that sort of stuff. I've used it a fair bit, but you can just see with these Loomis rods, they just hold their quality so well. So this one's a 6'8", it is an NRX Plus, it's rated 12 to 16 pounds, says you can throw 5/8 of an ounce, which it'll definitely do. It's got a lot of balls to it. Caught some good lizards on this. It's just super light and it's nice and short. Sometimes when it just comes to a bit more accuracy rather than a long rod, that's when I'll bring this one out. And I'd usually, at one time, I matched this up with one of the Corrados, and yeah, it was just a sweet rod. So doesn't get used heaps, but it always does the job for me, and you just can't beat these Loomis rods. You really can't. Right, another bass rod that I got not too long ago. This is basically the same specs as the Poison. This X-Pride rod, very similar. I just got it because to me it felt a little bit stiffer in the tip, so good for throwing lures like these pompadours and stuff like that. Got the Bantam on it as well. This is the higher gear ratio, so this one bumps up to a 7.1. And yeah, I just got it because I'll be rolling things a little bit faster than I would with that other reel. This one's got 20 pound Kairiki in the multi. So the X-Pride 7 to 21 grams, says it throws up to 3/4, 8 to 16 pound, 6'10" in length. Like I said, very similar specs compared to the Poison. I just feel like it's a little bit stiffer in the tip. The X-Prides are awesome, very affordable, great bait caster, especially if you're just getting started off into it. Same with the Bantams. They're a bit more pricey, but they're just such a good reel. They're so smooth and so light. Alright, I've got another X-Pride here, and this is the 7.2. This one's the 172 MH, so it's got a bit more balls stepping up from those rods I just showed you, and this one is very similar to the Poison that I'll show you next. They're basically identical in their specs and how they feel. A lot of these rods, I got them just because if I'm going to be going out on the boat with someone, sometimes I would prefer to opt for one of these cheaper rods just in case they get stepped on or something happens, because stuff does happen every now and then. So some of these are more so just spares to use in those situations. This is a great rod, and it's got a fair bit of guts to it. I would throw, this is the type of rod that I would roll 7-inch plastics on. I could throw 9, I could throw heavier. But that's kind of just what I would use it for. So it's got a bit of give in the tip, but it's super solid down the bottom. Alright, and this is where we start getting into the big boy gear. This is where we bring out the cow cutters, which are just like one of the best reels on the planet. These things are absolutely unreal. The only problem I have with them is when you start using them, you don't want to use anything else because they're that nice. This one is the 200 XG, so it doesn't actually have the drag clicker on this model. When I first started night fishing for lizards, this is the first reel that I got because I just felt like I needed a little bit of power. It feels awesome in the hands, fits the grip perfectly. As I started fishing more into the night, I felt like I wanted something a bit bigger again, and that's why I got the bigger version, which I'll show you after this. But this is another outfit that I just love. I love rolling the 7-inch plastics on this. The Poison Adrena, which is the old model, is 7.3, 10 to 30 grams, 10 to 20 pound. Like I said, feels really similar to that X-Pride. I do prefer these just in how they look and how they feel. The only thing is they don't make these Poisons in the new models. I wish they would, because it's such a sweet rod. You can cast it all day. It's super light. It's got some serious guts to it. And on this reel, I've actually got the Shimano Oshia, which is, I think it's their most expensive braid. It is quite pricey, but it's incredible. The knot strength is just ridiculous. The line has faded a fair bit, which I guess happens to all line, and that was multicoloured. Alright, so this is my last bait caster outfit. This is the behemoth. This is the big boy outfit. It's the first thing I pick up when it comes to nighttime fishing for lizards, or even for dew. If I want to roll plastics, or if I want to slow roll anything, this is what I pick up. So this is the Calcutta Conquest MD. That's the 3000 XG. So when you pull the drag, it actually does make a sound. Super smooth. Match this one up with an IMX Pro G Loomis again. So it's one of their swim bait versions. This is 7.6. 12 to 25 pound, rated up to 3 ounces to throw. I find this absolutely perfect, especially for flathead, because it has got the guts down below that you need to set hooks into these fish, but it's also got that softer tip when it comes to keeping those hooks in. You really do get what you pay for with these reels. I've absolutely drowned this reel. It was only 3 or so months ago. I took this underwater, swam it under racks, trying to get a fish back, like proper synchronized swimming. I thought I would have cooked it, ended up losing the fish, and I still haven't sent this back in to be serviced. I did a little bit of maintenance work myself with a little bit of oil and some inox and whatnot. It's absolutely perfect, which is pretty crazy considering it is an overhead reel and it's not necessarily closed like a spin reel is. So proper drowned it, didn't affect it whatsoever. So into the fly gear. I started fly fishing probably about 6 months ago. Initially I went out and got this in a combo, the Orvis Clearwaters. They come in a pre-made combo, 6 weight, 9 foot, you get a rod, you get a reel, you get the line, the backing and all that sort of stuff. It's fairly priced. I just kind of found the reel was pretty rubbish. After I caught a few fish on it, I was just like, yeah, I need something a little bit better. So this is the Orvis Hydros 3. I believe that's a 5 to 6 weight. I've got Scientific Angler's Titan Mastery on that, and I believe that's a 7 weight weight forward line. And this is just a much nicer combo to use for perch, for bass. I even started catching some dew on it until I started getting smoked, and that's why I got the other outfit. For all those 3 species and anything else, brim and whatnot, it's pretty quality, especially the reel and the line. This is a bit more of a serious outfit, this one, the TFO. It's a Mangrove Coast, it's a 9 weight, matched up with the Old Faithful Reddington Behemoth in a 7 to 8. I've got Rio Outbound Short on that. I believe that's in a 9 weight as well. So this is a really nice outfit, basically designed for turning over big flies, which is exactly what I got it for. This is for dew and for lizards. I didn't end up targeting lizards basically at all this year, so I didn't really get to use it. I'll definitely use it for dew in the next couple of months. Really nice looking rod, and it's got plenty of guts, and it's still actually quite light. And I think it's a $500 rod. The reels are pretty well priced, but as most fly guys know, the line is the most important thing. So this is a nice outfit for throwing big flies. So this is some of the recently released Tenacity. I got to use this on the sustain shoot that I did late last year, and ever since then I really like it. Really like it. The orange colour more so. I've been wanting Shimano to do an orange for a few years now. So I've been using Power Pro exclusively since even before I first joined Shimano in 2021. I've always loved it, super reliable, doesn't cast great, but just that knot strength and obviously the abrasion resistance that comes with it. The Tenacity is no different, it's just a lot smoother, and yeah, I love that orange. I'll probably find myself respooling all of my outfits with this in the next couple of months. The way that I see is orange and whites are the best colours when it comes to trying to visibly see your line over the water. Green is alright, but I find greens fade a fair bit, and certain applications in fishing where you really need to be looking at your line is obviously super important. So I really like this Tenacity. It's probably my favourite braid in the Shimano lineup. This is the Kairiki Plus. I think this has been out for a few years now. I didn't use the original Kairiki too much, but since I've been using this, it's actually been quite good. I think the diameter differences on the similar PE and pound ratings compared to the Tenacity, there's a slight difference in how thin they are. Yeah, the Kairiki's solid. I love the look of the multi. I think it just looks awesome on reels, but when it comes to the productivity of actually seeing the line over the waters, I struggle with the blues and the purples, even the pinks and reds and stuff, because they fade quite quickly, and then when you're trying to visibly see it over the water, I just struggle. So this is the Asia. I believe this is Shimano's highest price line. It's really nice braid, like ridiculous knot strength. I've never fished a braid with knot strength like this. The only thing is it only comes in the multi, and I find it fades quite quickly, which is why I don't use it too often. It's on both my cow cutters, ridiculous casting ability, and like I said, the knot strength is, I've never experienced anything like it, but it's quite pricey. You pay for what you get. And this is just the old faithful Osha Fluoro. Fluorocarbon's fluorocarbon at the end of the day. I've never had any dramas with it. I trust it, and that's probably the biggest thing when it comes to fishing. You got to trust what you're using, and yeah, I do really like this stuff. Righto, well that'll just about wrap up all of my gear. It's a decent run through of everything that I like to use and some of my favourites. At the end of the day, I'm going to say the NRX Plus and the Twin Power XD is my favourite all-time combo. Hopefully this can just help a few people get a gauge on some of this more expensive gear. It is kind of hard to find, like I've found videos, especially in Australia, on most of these Loomis rods and some of the more expensive ones. So a bit of a run through on what I like to use and when I like to use it. So if there's anything else that you'd like me to make a video on when it comes to what plastics I like to use for dew and flathead and all that sort of stuff, or even a boat run through, which I've been considering doing, just let me know. Anyway, cheers for watching. Laters.